Women educators are natural givers, pouring into their students, their families, and communities. But what about pouring into you? This is the Educator Sanctuary, where we help you ditch the guilt and unapologetically put yourself at the top of your list. I'm Dr. Leah, educator, mindset coach, and your guide to creating a life where you align with your purpose and reclaim your power. So if you're ready to set boundaries and step fully into the woman you're meant to be, you're definitely in the right place. Let's get into it. Hey, and welcome back to the Educator Sanctuary, where we have big conversations, mindset shifts, personal growth, and all the things that help you live more intentionally. Woo, this week is going to just be a little bit, I don't want to say heavy because it's not heavy, but it has felt heavy on social media as well as catching up with some old friends. When I look on social media and with the conversations that I've had, I have noticed something that I feel like a lot of us can relate to. A lot of people are exhausted mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. They feel like they're doing everything that they know how to do, but they still feel like they're barely hanging on most days. And when I was having these conversations or watching it on social media, I realized something even deeper. A lot of people are just operating from what they call being realistic. But in reality, being a realist is often the very thing that's keeping them stuck. That's what I'll be digging into today. How shifting your mindset from realism to optimism can open the door to your breakthrough. So, not long ago, I had these conversations back to back, and while people were sharing their struggles, I definitely felt the energy and the conversations were heavy. And I found myself doing more of the work to motivate them, to encourage them to shift their thoughts, look at things differently. But I felt like the more that I kept trying to have these optimistic outlooks, the more they pushed back. I used to say this sometimes, and I know I've heard this before as well, but it's like some people don't want the solution to the problem, they just want to talk about the problem. And it was like every single time I offered a new perspective, they came right back with, yeah, but. And then they kept repeating whatever limitation they felt was in the way. And I heavily say they felt. After a while, for me, this is just for me, this was very draining because I'm like, they really just don't choose to see this any other way. Like, they're not open to hope. They're choosing to see what is in front of them instead of the possibilities. And that was the moment that I realized this is why a lot of people get stuck right here and they can't get past it. Here's the truth, because I've heard this a lot. I'm just being real. But while being a realist sounds smart, most of the time it's really just a disguise for fear or unbelief. Realism keeps people locked into the evidence that what we see right now is true instead of the vision of what's actually possible. If you've ever taken a look at some of the greatest success stories, whether it's in business, in faith, or even in just personal journeys, none of those people got to where they have gone because they chose to play it safe. Those people received what they deserved because they dared to believe in something bigger than what was in front of them. So here's the flip side of realism. It's optimism. And I've always thought that I was a pretty optimistic person. And I know a lot of people don't like that about me. But optimism isn't about ignoring the hard facts or pretending problems don't exist. And I've heard that a lot. Like, you're just failing to see. No, I'm not failing to see. I'm choosing to see past it because there are people out there who have shown me what's possible. So I'm choosing to see past things. I'm not ignoring that the problems exist. So it's really all about believing that your current reality is not the story and it's not the end of the story. Whether you're biblical and lean on verses like speak things that are not as though they were, or you believe in universal principles, your words and your thoughts carry power. What you actually speak is a reflection of what you believe in your heart. The Bible even says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And universally, people say the energy that you put out is the energy that you get back, right? Or some people talk about karma. It's all the same. The message is when you declare the possibilities and when you train your mind to expect those good things, you create room for good things to actually manifest in your life. Here's what a lot of people miss. Hey, Educator Sanctuary listeners. Are you a homeschooling mom or thinking about it, but feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or maybe unsure how to confidently guide your child's learning journey? Maybe you're craving time for self-care, rest, or just a break, but you feel like you're doing it all on your own without anyone to turn to for help. Let me introduce you to Purpose Prep Academy, an online and in-person STEAM micro school for learners in grades K-8. Purpose Prep Academy isn't just any school. It's a space where young minds are nurtured, empowered, and taught to lead with confidence, curiosity, and purpose. Purpose Prep Academy focuses on providing students with the academic tools they need while fostering personal growth to help them thrive both inside and outside the classroom. At Purpose Prep Academy, they offer personalized learning, foster critical thinking, and provide real-world applications to help students become 21st century leaders and change makers. If you're looking for a program that can help you reclaim your time, give you peace of mind, or simply give your child a space to thrive, Purpose Prep Academy could be exactly what you've been looking for. Want to learn more? Visit purposeprepacademy.org to schedule a virtual meeting or an experience day and find out if Purpose Prep Academy is the right fit for your family. So, some people might say those positive words, but they still think negatively. For example, someone might say, man, I wish I could win the lottery. If I won the lottery, I would do blah, 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 blah. But deep down, they're convinced that nothing ever good like that ever happens to me. I never win anything. And you know what? That belief cancels out the words. You do not attract what you hope for. You attract what you truly believe. Optimism isn't just about words. It is about shifting your belief system to match the words you're speaking. So while being realistic, I'm just being a realist, will keep you circling that same mountain again and again. Optimism and being aligned with that belief is what's going to break you free. It's what keeps you moving forward. It's what allows you to see possibility where others only see limitation. I'm going to offer a little more transparency here. I keep doing this. But anyway, there was a time in my life when, with all of the skills and talents that I had, and by the way, I feel like I should be a billionaire with the amount of talent sitting inside of me, but I had to make the choice to earn some extra money. I did not have a ton of people that I could rely on, and I knew that the people that I could rely on couldn't continue to be there for me, offering me help month after month. I was pretty much in a season where I knew that I was being tested heavily and that I had to figure out another way. That meant picking up a gig like DoorDash, something that I didn't want to do, an experience that I despise and am grateful for all at the same time. I don't have too much pride, or should I say I don't have a lot of pride to do things where other people may be like, oh, you have this degree, you that degree, why don't you just go get a job? I knew that the situation that I was in, the job wasn't going to be the answer, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. I just needed to get over a hump. And so I chose a gig like DoorDash to be able to keep my assets, my house, my car, and things like that. I just said to myself, hey, I'm going through a hard time. And a lot of the stories that I had to relate to were stories of wealthy people who had to sleep on couches, live in garages or their cars, or I know of one story, and I'm so blessed that it's not me, but I know of one super successful person that had to eat out of trash cans. A lot of those stories really helped me push my mindset to the fact that doing DoorDash is not that bad. I still have my home. I still have my car. I still have my retirement assets that I, didn't want to cash in. Making some extra money doing a gig like DoorDash is actually not that bad. And so I made up in my mind that I was not going to let negative voices or what I was looking at in front of me dictate my reality. I decided at that moment to sit down, add up my expenses, give myself a little buffer, and I decided what my daily bare minimum had to be when I went out to do my DoorDash gig. I broke that number down into goals. Some days I went out there and I hit my goals in a few hours, and other days it took me a lot longer. But in my mind, I said, I'm not going home until I hit this number. And part of me is because I guess just the way that I'm wired. When I get fixated on something, that's what I'm going for. Okay. And I'm not stopping until I get there. So that's really helpful with the way that my mind is wired. But also, the second part of that was if I didn't hit the goal that day, I knew that it would make me behind for the next day. And so it was a non-negotiable for me to go home without hitting a specific dollar amount. But something powerful really happened in that I didn't realize until much later. Because when I was in it, it was just like fixated on the goal. And I wasn't thinking about the lesson or the outcome of it until months later. But once I programmed my mind that my bare minimum was my bare minimum and that I was not going home without hitting that bare minimum, no matter how many hours it took me, opportunities opened up. I started getting unbelievable tips, and I mean unbelievable tips, even on really small orders. I found better routes. I figured out ways to maximize my time and my money. And not only did I hit my goals, but I started surpassing them. So much so that my bare minimum increased. That first bare minimum that I thought was impossible became so easy that I moved the needle. And there were days that I even went out and I doubled or tripled what I set out to make. And I kept doing this in less time. When I went back, actually maybe like a couple years ago, I said, I just want to see what my 1099 was. Like I was just curious, right? I looked at my 1099 and I realized that I had created a salary that most people, they don't even make when they get up and go to work every day at their W-2 job. And for sure, it was a salary that most people think isn't even possible from a side gig like that. But I will always attribute that to my mindset because I made up my mind that I didn't care about the stories of other people. I made up my mind about what had to be possible for me, and then I put in the work. And that's the difference between just being realistic and stepping into optimism. One is going to keep you stuck, but the other one is going to shift your life entirely. So here is your homework this week. I really do want you to sit down and think about these areas where you're being realistic. Maybe it's with your finances. Maybe it's with your health. Maybe it's with your business or your relationships. Whatever it is, for each one, write down that realistic thought and then flip it into a possibility statement. For example, instead of I'll never get out of debt, or I keep trying to pay off these student loans, but I'm never getting anywhere with them, you can write, I am open to learning and creating new ways of building wealth. That's just one example. But here's the real thick of it. You can't just write it down. You need to read that new belief statement, but you also need to put something in action. For example, there are people who believe that they cannot save money because they're in so much debt. But you still can save money when you're in debt. You can put away $1. You can put away $5, because here is the reality, the real reality. People who say that they're in debt and they cannot pay their bills, they still go out and buy frivolous stuff. People who are in debt and cannot pay their bills will still find a way to take a trip. But this keeps you in the loop. It keeps you in the cycle. So if you are a person that is in debt, you can put away $1 or $2 or $3 or $5, because even if you don't save that money, you're going to spend that money. But putting away the dollar, even though it is small, it is a small shift towards the new reality that you're asking for, instead of spending that dollar and keeping yourself in the reality that you currently have. So one is that realism that you can't save, but the optimism is you can. And you will. And by doing so, you're going to get yourself out of debt. And it doesn't matter. You can make that amount that you save or choose to save that non-negotiable. Every single week, I'm going to put away $5 no matter what. Now, trust me, when you say this, that $5 is going to be tested. And you're going to have things that come into your presence that make you believe that you cannot put that $5 away, but you have to put the $5 away. The more you do it, the more you challenge your current mindset, that you can get past whatever mountain it is. And so I hope this helps you into leaning into that optimistic side and knowing that you really do have to not only put your faith first, but you have to put your actions behind it, and it has to be no matter what. So I hope this helped you. And as always, I always say, if this episode spoke to you, please share it with someone who may be feeling stuck in realism. And I'm going to say this. I started this podcast in January, not even knowing how to start a podcast really, but I started this podcast in January. I barely promote it because there has just been little time. I'm focusing on my other business more. And even in barely being able to promote this podcast in the way that I would like to, in true Dr. Leia fashion, the way that I would do it, this podcast has reached so many women. Every time I go into my app and look at my statistics and I see where people are coming from, I am just in pure awe and belief of how this is getting out. And I am so grateful and so honored to be a voice that is so very helpful to you all, that you all are choosing to send this not only to your friends and family in the US, but abroad. I've almost wanted to cry. And so we are super, super, super close. I thought we would get to the 1,000 by the end of September, but I'm positive we're going to get there by the end of October. So thank you so much for sharing this podcast out. If you have not yet, please leave a review. Your shares to the women across this country and across this world lets me know that you are loving this podcast. So please take the time to just leave a review. Even if you can only have time to just scroll down and hit 5 stars, that's better than no review. But if you can, leave a couple of encouraging words. Good podcast, or really enjoyed this episode, or really loved how you said this. That truly matters for me and for other people who are looking for something like this. Your reviews really do help the Educator Sanctuary. and it helps other people find these big conversations so they can have the mindset shifts that's going to transform their lives. Don't leave them out of this. Take a few seconds, click on your review. All you have to do is scroll down in whatever app you're listening to, and there should be a place for you to be able to leave a review. Thank you so much. I will leave you with this one last thing, and that is you never get what you wish for. You always get what you believe. So choose to believe in optimism, choose to speak life, and choose to expect the possibilities that there is always more for you. That is how you shift from stuck to your breakthrough. Talk soon. Thank you for joining me in the Educator Sanctuary, where we create a space for women educators to reclaim their power and prioritize themselves unapologetically. If you've loved what you've heard, please do not forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with other amazing women who need to hear this message. Until next time, remember, you are capable, you are powerful, and you are absolutely worthy. You've got this. Talk soon.